The base is dropped on a new edition of Soccer Down here, September 5th. It's a Thursday. That means it's hashtag Thursday Thoughts. So if you guys want to join the conversation with us out there on Twitter, chime in at Soccer Down here. Let us know what you're thinking about. It's the international break, so there's lots of different things floating around out there, and we might go a little deeper into a few different topics today. John Nelson will be joining us shortly. He's on college football show duty on the OSG network, and I know a lot of you guys have downloaded the Soccer Down Here app, and if you're looking for coverage of other sports, John and the rest of the crew at OSG have their own app. They have a series of shows as well, a lot of college football as that starts to ramp up. NFL starts today. It's just a crazy day in sports. I want to get into a few different things off the top this morning when we dig into a Thursday Thoughts edition. The CONCACAF Gold Cup now has a new process for qualifying, and I think I've actually wrapped my head around this. I think it works. I've always wondered, and we've talked about it before, what's the future for CONCACAF? What's the future for the Gold Cup? Does it dovetail with the Copa America? Does it result long-term in a combined process with CONMEBOL and the South American nations? You know, even as far as World Cup qualifying down the road when we get to the 48-team tournament, what is that going to mean for CONCACAF? How are things going to go? How are things going to evolve? The CONCACAF Nations League is now kicking off, and this is something that is going to be used as the qualifying pathway for the Gold Cup. The CONCACAF Nations League, and there will be a test on this. It's a little complicated. You have a League A, a League B, and a League C, and there is promotion and relegation between the leagues. League A is the top teams in CONCACAF, and you have 12 teams, 4 groups of 3. You have 16 countries in League B, 4 groups of 4. League C, not quite even, but you have 4 groups, 3 groups of 3 for 9 teams. The remaining 4 teams in CONCACAF are in one group. So a 13-team League C, a 16-team League B, a 12-team League A. Okay. Now, for qualifying for the 2021 Gold Cup, the top 2 in each League A group, so 2 of the 3 teams in the group, go to the Gold Cup. So 8 of the top 12 teams in CONCACAF will go to the Gold Cup, no questions asked. League B, the group winners will go to the Gold Cup. So that gets you 12 teams in the Gold Cup. The final 4 spots will be determined in a qualifying playoff between the remaining teams in League A, the last place teams, the second place teams in League B, and the group winners in League C. So that's going to get you some of the smaller countries with an opportunity to qualify, but it's also going to slant the Gold Cup heavily towards the top teams in the Confederation. I think long term, this works. I'm okay with it in the long term. I think it can definitely play out and benefit the Confederation as a whole. The Nations League starts in this international cycle. The United States, their Nations League games don't start till October. Games will be played over the September, October, November windows. U.S., Canada, Cuba are in a group together in League A. Canada and Cuba will face each other on both dates during this September window. U.S. is playing friendlies. U.S. will play Canada and Cuba in October and November. So, for the Nations League part of it, which is a separate competition, after the round-robin play through these windows this year, The 4 League A group winners will go to the CONCACAF Nations League Finals. That'll be next June. That'll crown the first CONCACAF Nations League champion. It gets into relegation and how all of that will work in the long term. The bottom teams will go down to B. The top teams from B will go up to A. Same thing from B and C. And you're going to get some movement. So hopefully you'll see a few different faces each time the CONCACAF Nations League pops up. Look, I was skeptical of the Nations League in Europe. I think it's going to work. The one drawback, and from a U.S. perspective, when you come down to the Nations League, is it limits the windows to face other competition outside of CONCACAF. The European teams are pretty much booked up. There's only a handful of dates for friendlies with European national teams because of their European Championships qualifying, World Cup qualifying, and their UEFA Nations League. South American teams have a longer qualifying process, but they don't have a Nations League type of setup. They do have Copa America. There are some opportunities for the United States and Mexico to play friendlies with those teams as the U.S. is playing Uruguay in this cycle. That's the only drawback. From a long-term perspective, though, I think it does benefit CONCACAF because it creates more meaningful games. And for the U.S. to go play meaningful games this time around, Canada, not going to be a pushover. That could have a little spice to it. U.S. and Canada has been a nice rivalry in the past. Canada, I think, is getting back to where they can be among the better teams in CONCACAF. They're not quite there yet, but they get a win over the United States in Nations League, then that conversation changes. Cuba's a bit of an unknown. You just don't really know what you're going to get. The players are unknown. The way they play is unknown. They can make it difficult for you. Also, they can't host games at the moment. The U.S.-Cuba match will be in the Cayman Islands. So that, takes a little bit of the luster away. But you get into a 4-team playoff in next June where it could be the U.S., it could be Mexico, it could be Costa Rica, and it could be Jamaica, just pulling names out of a hat without looking at the groups. Okay, good competition. And players have to learn how to deal with these challenges that come up in meaningful games. That's what, in my opinion, will help the U.S. program and, more importantly, help all of the CONCACAF countries. Because we've talked about this from a Champions League perspective. I would love to see, long-term, CONCACAF go back to what they've done in the past and try to find a way to mimic the UEFA Champions League in terms of a group stage. I know it's complicated for MLS schedules, and look, if this helps push Major League Soccer to have bigger rosters and spend more money, I'm all for it. But the group stage format would be amazing, and it would be great challenge for the MLS teams. It would be an outstanding opportunity to be pushed. However, right now, there's just a gigantic gap between the MLS teams and the Caribbean teams, for example, or the lesser teams in Central America. That's why they went away from the group stage. They went to just a knockout. The additional games, which would benefit the smaller teams, wasn't worth it for the big teams, and they pushed against it. They just wanted the knockout round, the round of 16. That's where they wanted it to start. So CONCACAF created the CONCACAF League, which has basically group stage for the smaller teams, essentially, games for them, and then they just come into the round of 16 with the big teams. Long term, if this works, and you're raising the level of the national team side, I hope down the road it raises the level of the club side, and you get group stage for Champions League or something along those lines to have more meaningful international competition for Major League Soccer teams, for Canadian Premier League teams, for Liga MX teams, all of the above. I believe that's John Nelson in the background, who is free now and has stopped talking college football.
Yep. we had a first over on the OSG Sports side as a part of our rivalries and trophy games show. We actually get to talk to a head coach for the first time. So it was
Okay.
It was a good pull. Springfield College and Western New England are going at it in Division III this weekend, and it's the Battle of the Pinch and Saw.
What?
Yes.
What is that?
It is literally, it's a saw. It is a rivalry of two schools in Massachusetts, about 3 miles apart. And when it was, it's in Springfield, Massachusetts, home of basketball, James Naismith and all that kind of stuff. And these two teams are going at it, first game of the year, and they tried to come up with a name for the rivalry. And they submitted it publicly, and it was decided that it would be named after William Pynchon, the guy who is the founder of Springfield, Massachusetts, not the Simpsons version, but home of basketball. And because the two towns are Springfield and Winnick, SAW, it is now the Pynchon Saw rivalry game. And there is an actual saw that you get when you win, and it is in the Springfield College office as we speak, getting ready for display for the game tomorrow on a Saturday.
Okay.
So that's what we do with that show over on the OSG Sports side of things. But yeah, Mike Saraswaldo, the head coach of Springfield, was the first ever head coach that we got to talk to on that show.
Very nice. And they're battling over a saw.
Yes, they are. And hey, in Minnesota this weekend, in the Division III, I believe, McAllister and Carleton College, the Fighting Saints, I believe, they're fighting
Saints?
over
Isn't that
the
kind of
book.
weird?
I know. I know. It's a little. What is it when you have two things going at one time?
Yeah, I don't get that one.
No, but the Fighting Saints of Carleton, I think, and they're going after what? They're going after the Book of Knowledge.
So they're fighting over a book?
Over a book, yes. It is an actual book. And so this is the kind of stuff that we tackle on the show.
All right. There's a big D3 soccer match here in Atlanta tomorrow.
Excellent turn of plugs, sir.
Hey, you went with NCAA D3. I get to follow up with that with Oglethorpe and Emory over
Correct.
on the campus at Emory. It's at 7 o'clock. If you are in town and you are looking for a good match, this is actually one you want to check out. Two teams that play different styles, two teams that honestly don't really like each other, and that they've always been kind of pitted against one another, and Emory has been the big brother for a long time. Recent years, though, Oglethorpe has gotten the better of Emory. So this is going to have a little spice to it for an early season game. Oglethorpe started 2-0 in the Sonny Carter Invitational. Played really well last weekend, and they want to try to continue to push this along. Last year, they narrowly missed out on an at-large bid to the NCAA D3 tournament. I think it was a bad decision by the tournament committee. There's always been a bit of a slant in D3 soccer towards the Northeast teams because there's so many of them, and they're able to get more out of conference games, and they've just been established longer. So they're going to get more of those at-large bids. The SAA, the Southern Athletic Association, only got the conference champion in, and Oglethorpe lost in penalties in the conference championship match, in the tournament match, and that's what kept them out. So they have scheduled as difficult of a out-of-conference schedule as they possibly can to try to give them every chance to get back in. They've been to the D3 tournament before, but last year felt like a group that probably should have. I'll be on the game. Jessica Sharman will be on the game with me. We'll be calling it for the Oglethorpe side of things. But if you get a chance to come out and check it out, it'll be a fun one, and you have a lot of local talent on both sides. A lot of players from the Metro Atlanta area who have played for most of the major youth clubs in the area, as well as a lot of the top high school programs. So come out and check that out at Emory tomorrow night. You'll be able to watch it. We'll send the link out via social media as well. We're going to take a quick break. We're going to get into your Thursday thoughts this morning because it's kind of an open air show here because not any Atlanta United games this weekend. We'll talk a little about Atlanta United too. You have some MLS games. We'll get into that. You have U.S.-Mexico tomorrow. We'll touch on that. There's some things happening, but during the international break, it becomes a little loose. So we will get into whatever you guys would want us to get into starting after the break.
Looking for future leaders we can trust and believe in? Look no further than the high school student athletes right here in Georgia. High school sports teach young people how to be effective leaders. It begins by making their grades and being on time for practice. It includes learning to listen, following directions, accepting responsibility, being a good role model. And it's about respect for officials, opponents, the rules, and each other. The result? It transcends sports. It gives us hope for the future. High school sports. There's so much more than just a game. This message presented by the Georgia High School Association and the Georgia Athletic Directors Association.
Today's show is presented by Appolinsky & Associates, personal injury lawyers with over 30 years of experience, supporters of Atlanta United, Faction, and Inter-Atlanta Youth Football Club. If you've been hurt in a wreck, contact Steve today at steve@aa-legal.com or call in 24/7 at 404-377-9191. The initial consultation is free.
We know that every driver is different, and a one-size policy does not fit all. That's why Country Financial offers a variety of discounts, so you get the coverage you need and the savings you deserve. From good driver to good student, multi-policy to multi-car, we've got a discount to suit every driver. Call Jason Wright at 678-568-6871 today to see what you could save. On Facebook at Jason Wright Agency or by phone at 678-568-6871. Discounts vary by state. Policies issued by Country Mutual Insurance Company, Country Preferred Insurance Company, or Country Casualty Insurance Company, Bloomington, Illinois.
Welcome back. Soccer Down here, September 5th edition. Thursday thoughts. Use the hashtag. Tweet at us at Soccer Down here. Let us know what's on your mind this morning. Let's get into that Twitter timeline, John.
All right, Michael Head leading off this morning. He says, I was one of the few attending the Twos match last night, realizing the team exists for player development, and several players were called up for international duty. The crowd, atmosphere, and performance were all subpar. Is the club satisfied with this situation?
I think from a player development standpoint they are, because I feel like this year you've seen more individual player development than last year, for example. And it's not a knock on last year. It's just the way it's gone. George Campbell has developed nicely to the point that he earned a homegrown contract for next season. Luis Fernando developed from a USL championship signing to earning a first-team contract. Guys like Will Riley are getting minutes, significant minutes from, this was his 8th appearance from mid-July, playing a USL championship at 16. That part of it also then reflects on the results, because you saw Riley make a couple of mistakes last night. You're playing a very young team, and don't forget guys like Benitez and Dacus are on loan, young Central American players playing against a team in Birmingham that lots of veterans, good bit of MLS experience in that group. There's some guys that I think still should be in MLS in that group, and lots of guys on loan from MLS clubs. Atlanta United 2 last night didn't have many first-team players involved at all. Luis Fernando would have been one, for example, who hasn't played for the first team yet. They didn't have some of the usual suspects they've had before in matches, and it showed. It definitely showed. We talked about it on the broadcast. They gave up the early goal, which is just a great goal from Birmingham. Brian Wright, who's on loan from New England. It's a great ball from Prosper Kasim, and Wright just takes it really well. Atlanta grew into the game there, but they just got nothing for their possession. Nothing for, honestly, didn't create enough chances with the possession. And New England in transition just killed them. These are games where, and we watched some of the highlights back after we were done last night. These are some of the games where you take this video and you show guys like Dacus, like Garrison Tubbs, another academy 17-year-old center back who's been playing significant minutes lately. You show Benitez. You show Lawrence Wyke, who is in his first professional season. All right. This is where this goal happened. This broke down between 1, 2, 3 of you. This is where we get better. And that's honestly the point here. The crowd size, the atmosphere side of it, I think a midweek game, once school's back in, is really difficult. And It's not something that you would ideally want to schedule. The midweek games during the summer, not too bad. Not too bad at all. This one, it's very difficult. And especially coming off of a holiday weekend where people, might have went out of town, they get back, they're getting back into the swing of things. It's a lot harder to get out on a Wednesday night. I think that was rough. Want to see what the crowd looks like Saturday. Weekend crowds have been pretty decent this season. I think there's always the question, and we've talked about it, and I think everybody involved in sports in Atlanta has talked about it in different ways, is in Kennesaw, how much are you going to draw from the overall Metro Atlanta fan base? It was an issue for the Atlanta Beat. It was an issue for the lacrosse team that played there last summer. They've come back into town. They played some games at Grady. They've played some games at Silverbacks Park. It can be a challenge. There's an audience, there's a market there, but for Atlanta United, you have your first team audience that is broad around the metro area. You're not going to get that same pull for Atlanta United too. So trying to find the balance between player development, between marketing and bringing people into the building, and results, it's tough. And I think if any of the three is going to get ranked higher, it's going to be player development, because that's the point of the team, is to prepare players for the first team and help you decide which academy players are ready for that next step. They have to get those minutes here, and you're going to see mistakes happen because of that. And if you're the club, you'd rather see those mistakes happen here than in an MLS match. And it's a tough balance.
I mean, is the club satisfied with losing in the final score that they did last night? No.
No, not at all.
But you're looking at the development of all of these guys. And the first guy that I will always go back to is Miles Robinson. And we got to see him last year with Atlanta United 2 grow into the system, grow into the philosophy, become more comfortable as a professional. And we see where he is now. If he didn't have the reps that he had with Atlanta United 2, the Miles Robinson you see would not be the same Miles Robinson, bottom line. And to your points about atmosphere, middle of the week, school's back in session, I think that contributes a lot to it. But you want to see growth. And when you have 16-year-olds going up against players who are an entire decade older than you, there's going to be that difference. And it's all about learning and all about growth. And when you go up against a Daniel Johnson, who really, to your point last night, you were stunned that the Chicago Fire got rid of him and wanted nothing to do with him anymore. You got to see that kind of quality from a player like that. These are learning situations. That's why you have a Jack Metcalf on the roster. That's why you have a Tyler Ruthven on the roster to help out in that process. But it's about developing all of these young guys who are 16 to 20 years old and continue to grow what you've already started to grow. So I always look forward to calling these matches because you're a part of being able to tell the story from the beginning about all these guys. When Bienveni Kanakimana came in, it was definitely something that came out of left field. He shows up, and now he's leading the team in goals, and he's back with his national team right now, and we got to see that yesterday. When you bring in all of these guys and you see them learn, I think that's that's one of the cool things about this, is to see them grow and become a part of Atlanta United. And Atlanta United too is that first stage. Yes, there are growing pains, and that's just how it is.
It's the balance that gets talked about in Spain and England and Germany of development and how much of a challenge just the whole development process is. England does not have second teams, reserve teams, B teams playing in the national pyramid. They're in a separate competition entirely. Spain has it. Germany has it, but I think Germany limits it, and correct me if I'm wrong, if anybody out there follows this closely. I think Germany has a few more limitations on it than Spain does. Spain, your second team has to be in the league below you. They can't earn promotion. I think Germany might limit that to like 2 divisions lower, because I feel like the secondary teams in Germany are lower down the table. But they play against, just normal teams. And that's when you get a matchup like this one where it's Atlanta and Birmingham. Birmingham is a normal second division team in the USL Championship that is playing to win championships. Atlanta United 2 is playing to develop players. 2 completely different aims. And that affects the way tactics evolve. That affects the way matches play out. It affects everything. So it's the balance. I believe, and I've said this before, MLS had a reserve league in the past. I think MLS player development, and in turn that affects the U.S. national team player development, is in a better place with this partnership between MLS and the USL. I do think, and I wonder if the independent teams in USL would be on board with this, I do think that if you had a promotion relegation between USL Championship and USL League One, it would solve some of these issues, because then the teams that are not getting results from this idea of developing players would be in USL League One. Now, that's going to take some time. League One's in its first year of operation. It's got to grow. They've talked about it. Don't know if it's going to happen, but they've talked about doing that. The budgets are fairly similar enough to where I think it could work. Or the flip side is the USL Championship, which it has been floated out there as well, says that this league is not for the secondary teams. And you go to kind of what I just said about Germany, where those teams are playing in the league below that, the third division. If that's the case, that's the case. I don't think the MLS teams and young players will benefit as much if it is completely separated into a reserve league. Been there, done that. It didn't have any effect on player development. It feels more secondary. I think finding the right balance between USL Championship, USL League One, player development, and competitive aspects of it, if you can find that balance, it will benefit everybody involved. MLS teams being involved in USL has greatly helped that league, and it's solidified that league and allowed it to have this platform to grow. Now the next steps are, okay, we've outgrown that part. Now what? Now what can we do to make this even better? And I hope those competitions are happening among technical directors and league organizers. We'll talk more about this as we go. If you have questions, throw them at us at Soccer Down here. We're going to get Felipe Cardenas on the line right after this. Talk a little bit about the international break and get caught up on Atlanta United as well. Hang out with us. We'll be right back.
A ranger station.
I'd like to report a bear hug.
Okay.
I put out my campfire and Smokey Bear hugged me.
So you drowned the fire, you stirred it, drowned it again, and felt that it was cold?
Uh-huh.
Yeah, but he's just letting you know you did good.
Bear hug from Smokey Bear. Status update.
I'm gonna let you go now. There are many ways to start a fire, but one sure way to put it out. Learn how you can do your part at SmokeyBear.com.
Sponsored by the U.S. Forest Service, Ad Council, and your state forester.
As a business owner, you know that every year brings new challenges and opportunities. The success of your business demands expertise and focus. And Country Financial can help you keep that focus by helping ensure you have the right insurance protection in place to meet your goals. Jason Wright can help you create a customized insurance plan that has coverages designed just for your business. Give Jason a call at 678-568-6871 or reach him on Facebook at Jason Wright Agency. Coverages vary by state. Policies issued by Country Mutual Insurance Company, Bloomington, Illinois.
This is what matters. This is beyond X's and O's. This is the difference mutual respect makes. This is what character looks like. This is what defines us in Georgia. This is sportsmanship. School sports. It's not the outcome that matters most, but the way the games are played. This message presented by the Georgia High School Association and the Georgia Athletic Directors Association.
If you've been hurt in a car wreck, contact my friend Steve Apolensky of Apolensky and Associates. He's been representing individuals for over 30 years throughout Georgia and Alabama. Email him at steve@aa-legal.com or call him 24/7 at 404-377-9191. The initial consultation is free.
Welcome back. Soccer Down here. September 5th edition. We have pulled Felipe Cardenas away from his coffee this morning to chat with us. What's up, Felipe?
Away from my second cup of coffee because I have had one cup. So yeah,
right.
but I can smell the second cup downstairs. It's brewing and it's calling my name. So yes.
All right. Well,
you guys are more
before you
important
go
right
grab that second cup, let's talk a little bit about just where I think the league is, MLS, during this international break. We went through the schedule for the remaining Eastern Conference matches among the top teams yesterday, and this thing's going to go down to the wire for who wins the East. It's going to go down to the wire for who makes the playoffs in the East. It's going to go down to the wire for 2 through 9 in the West. Is it one of the most competitive seasons in Major League Soccer history in your mind?
I think so. Yes, from a standings perspective, definitely. I think we need to wait and see, and there's probably a lot of different opinions on whether it's because of the level of play. I don't think all of a sudden every team is just, they've upgraded and they're competing with the big spenders, and that's why a team like Philadelphia is on top of Atlanta United. Like I don't believe that's the case yet. Like MLS is not there yet. That's where the league is trending towards, right? Having more teams that are willing to spend and are going to bring in players that they don't necessarily see as long-term projects. They see them as more of a short-term project, a development project. Players that can allow their teams to win right away, but obviously also be part of what is, a league-wide, not policy, but idea now to turn MLS into a selling league. So I don't think the reason why it's so competitive is because every team is just stacked and every team has just done the homework and done the work. I think you could argue that it's the level of play is still relatively inconsistent, and that parity that a lot of players and just whether they're people like us, whether we disagree or agree with it, that is still holding the league not hostage, but it's definitely keeping the league where kind of in this hovering in the same place. But I think a positive of that is what you're seeing, what you just described, where you have, for instance, in the East, the Montreal Impact are in 8th place. They're out of the playoffs, but they're only 1 point out of the playoffs. And the New England Revolution, they're only 2 points away from the New England Revolution, who are in 6th place. So it's like that whole bottom part of the East, I think it sets up for a huge decision day. Last year it was pretty exciting for different reasons, and I think this year is going to be just as exciting, if not more, because you're going to have more teams really fighting for a chance to play in the postseason.
Well, you mentioned the East, and then the West, you have LAFC, whose horizon job is right in everyone's mindset. But, when you look at the West, the craziness out there, you could see a team below the playoff bar work their way up because of all the home matches and all that kind of stuff. And it's on the whole, this whole playoff push here, and as Jason calls it, the business end of the schedule, it's fun for those of us who cover it, but at the same time, those who are going to be participating in it all the way down to decision day, it's going to be nerve-wracking on a bunch of different levels, and you make a misstep, and you could be dropping a couple of places very, very easily in the East and the West. For sure.
Yeah, and I think if we want to go not really big picture, but let's stir some controversy. Like this is where the the promotion relegation part of the equation that is not part of the MLS equation right now. But this is where we start to talk about that. Oh, well, imagine if these teams that weren't that aren't competing were fighting on the last day, fighting for on decision day, or fighting on the last day of the season just to stay in MLS. Obviously we don't have that type of drama, but there is going to be, the MLS sponsored part of drama where, like you said, John, there are going to be a lot of teams that are going to be very disappointed, in the 95th minute of the last day of the regular season, because their season is over. And that might be for different reasons. They didn't play well in the beginning of the season. They're playing catch up. I think a lot of clubs, both in the East and the West, are in that situation now where they're playing catch up with a lot of the teams that are starting to trend upwards. But we don't have the promotion relegation drama, which is pretty awesome around the league, or around the world. I'm sorry. When you start to see those teams that are really fighting for a lot more than what any MLS club really is even used to experiencing. But here we have these 2 or 3 spots in the playoff, both in the East and the West, where teams are going to be really battling for those positions. And I think what changes is that they know, if a team like even Sporting Kansas City, who has been pretty awful, this year for a lot of different reasons. They've had a lot of injuries, but they just have not played well. They have not lived up to any of their expectations, but they're still just 3 points. 5 points away from 7, 2 points away from Portland, and Portland is out of the playoffs right now, but just by 2 points. Like Sporting Kansas City could just make some crazy run and sneak in, and they know that they're in a single elimination playoff format. So you just have to get in, and you could make a run. So I think that adds a little bit of, some much needed drama at the end of the MLS regular season.
Yeah, it just moves it for me. I mean, if this was a league elsewhere that had promotion relegation, Sporting wouldn't be playing for anything right now, and the teams below them would be. So it moves the drama, and it's different drama because you're not getting relegated out. Your drama is to get into that postseason tournament, essentially. But it just moves it to the middle of the table. I'll be curious to see where it grows as MLS grows. That's a much bigger conversation than I think we have time for in terms of how Major League Soccer grows and what the overall structure looks like. Daniel Price had a question, and we didn't get a chance to really dig into it super deep yesterday. He wanted to get your take on it, Felipe. Why, when it comes to the U.S. national team, why is there such a weird vibe? He says hate. I think maybe it's just a consternation among the U.S. fan base about MLS players being part of the team, or too many MLS players being part of the U.S. national team, and that's a bad thing. What are your thoughts on that from your perspective, where I think it's fair to say that MLS has grown and the quality has gotten better over recent years, but is it a good or a bad thing for the U.S. national team to have a majority of Major League Soccer players in the squad?
So is that, I'm reading Daniel's question now, does he refer to the hate coming from fans, the general public? Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think it's necessarily as simple as saying, "Hey, it's good or bad." It's great that they're MLS play. I mean, you could argue that it's great for the league that more players from MLS are getting call-ups to the senior national team. But ultimately, you want your national team. This is the case for every country in the world to have the best possible players because they're qualifying for international tournaments. They're playing in continental tournaments. A lot of times, you don't want to run out a squad of players that you are just testing to see if they're good enough. But obviously, that happens too at the international level. The hate or just like the shade that comes from fans that may not follow MLS. I think it's understandable because MLS is a young league. It's not even 25 years old yet. I think they're going to hit their 25-year anniversary next season, and I talk about it a lot. I talk about like how the level of play isn't always trending upwards. It's good one year, it's bad the next year. It's good one year, but that's the case in a lot of different leagues. I'm very close to Colombia because that's where I'm from, and I follow the national team. The same thing happens in Colombia, you guys, and that's a league that has been around a long time. And when the national team starts calling up guys from local, domestic clubs, some fans are like, what is this guy doing? We have players in Europe, but it depends on the manager. Sometimes the manager wants to see a player and wants to see if this guy can fit into the rotation of players because they, not every European player is always going to be fit, is always going to be playing, and is always going to be ready for an international matchup. So, they need players that can step in. And I think the U.S. men's national team has a history, and it's not. I don't want to say it's toxic, but they've had managers like Jurgen Klinsmann who has been pretty critical of MLS and players that stay in MLS, his players that stayed in MLS and didn't go to Europe or came back from Europe, and so that I think that set a certain precedence for future managers. Should they care more about Major League Soccer? And so I think that debate will be ongoing until someone from Major League Soccer, a player from Major League Soccer, let's say makes the U.S. men's national team, just completely balls out, plays out of his mind, gets that type of performance gets him to Europe, and then that conversation kind of continues on that end. But it's happened. Landon Donovan was 20-year-old playing in MLS, goes to World Cup, becomes a star. It didn't work out in Europe for several different reasons, and he wanted to play in Major League Soccer. So I think that debate will always be there. I don't know. Some people will hate it. Some people will hate on it. Other people will recognize that also the players in MLS are getting younger, even American players. So that already is going to give them more opportunities to get call-ups to whether it's the U23s or the senior national team. And with a manager with Greg Berhalter, who has experience, all his coaching experience is from MLS. So, I would expect that he's going to be looking towards this league to find the right players for his system.
I mean, this conversation happens in Colombia and Argentina and countries in South America as well with, should they pick players from the domestic league? Should those guys not even be considered with so many players playing in Europe? There's more to choose from in Europe from those countries, but you see domestic players called in as well. It does happen.
Of course. I mean, even looking at Uruguay, who is going to be one of the U.S. They're going to play the U.S. in St. Louis, and I'll be covering that game. I'm going to be traveling to St. Louis to cover U.S. Uruguay.
Miles and points.
Yeah, throw that siren down, just breaking news. No, but I'll be there, and I've been doing a lot of research on just their list of the 23 players that Uruguay called up. A lot of senior players, a lot of very good players, but a lot of new players as well, new faces, young faces, especially because Cavani and Suarez and Diego Godin are all out because of injury. So that opens the door to new players, which is another thing that always happens. And, fans need to understand, like, some coaches don't have a choice, and that is their opportunity to call in some new players. So, LAFC's new DP, Brian Fernandez, he's a young player, a 20-year-old, who I'm pretty sure this is going to be his first cap if he plays. And there are a couple other guys on the team that are from the domestic Uruguay league. And it's funny because when I was looking at just to get a sense of what fans think of a certain player that got called in. Some guys are like, what is this guy doing on the team? Because he plays in Uruguay,
Mm-hmm.
and he doesn't play for Peñarol. He doesn't play for Nacional. He plays for kind of a mid-table team, but he's been playing well. And Oscar Tavares wants to give him a shot. And he was just getting, tons of, Twitter shade from fans that were like, what are we doing? So we're talking about Uruguay, a team that perennially always is playing at a high level in South America, and can choose players from all over the globe. And for these September friendlies, they've given some opportunities to some local guys. It happens.
All right, we've kept you from your second cup of coffee long enough, but we have one more question for you.
Sure.
From Nick Alifi.
There you
Lavazza or Illy?
Oh, I love Lavazza. I think I like them both, but I'm a Lavazza. If I'm going to choose Italian coffee, I'm going to go with Lavazza. And I liked it before I went to Italy, and then I went to Italy last year, and that's all we drank, my wife and I, and it was just, we found like different types of Lavazza that we can't find here in the States, and it was just like one of the best cups of coffee that I've ever had. So yeah, Lavazza all the way.
I'm not a coffee guy, but I will take that under consideration next time I decide to have some coffee.
Oh yeah, it's good. It's just.
Do you have
it's
coffee
really
with
good.
the pasta?
No. But after, you can have it after. You can have an espresso after your dinner. I do that often.
Okay.
I pay for it later because then I wake up at 3 a.m. and wide awake, but worth it.
Shit for that flight to St. Louis.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, looking forward to that. I mean, it's I'm going to be stepping in for Paul Tenorio, who obviously is our always covers the U.S. men's national team. He'll be in New York for the U.S.-Mexico game, and then I'm going to drop in for the St. Louis match. And yeah, looking forward to it. I think it's going to be an interesting matchup, depending on what happens with U.S.-Mexico, what Greg Berhalter, how he decides to play against Uruguay. And what happens between Uruguay and Costa Rica will affect how Tavares, what the type of team that he decides to put out there against the U.S. I think this is a good international break. There are some good matches coming up, some heavy call-ups. A lot of the bigger teams, they brought in their best players. All the big guns are there. And in case you guys hadn't heard, I think did you see that Costa Rica's manager just decided to resign? Yeah. So I'm not sure if I think he will be managing against Uruguay. But yeah, there's just always something going on with international soccer. It's fun. I definitely don't think it's boring.
Manager was so boring.
Yeah, I definitely don't think it's boring. But I mean, different strokes, right? Tata was a guy that, he obviously enjoyed coaching at the club level. He's done it for his entire career with different stints at the international level with Paraguay and Argentina. But there are times, whether it's your age or just where you are in your career, where you want a different challenge. And for some, the international type of job is not the right fit, because it's true, you're not out there every single day running training sessions, talking to players. It's just a different type of cycle. It's a different type of profession, different type of job. Frank de Boer, when he took this job, one of the things that I read from, and it came from his agent, then later he pretty much said it was true, is that Frank de Boer is the kind of guy that wants to be on the field every single day. He wants to be out there running sessions and being with players. So it's just, some guys want to do it, some guys don't. And obviously Costa Rica's current national team manager for the time being is a guy that thought it was boring to only see his players like once every 3 months.
I think he's being linked to San Luis in Mexico as well.
Yeah,
so
he has a history. He has a history in Mexico. I mean, he was very good in Mexico with, I think was it León or Santos Laguna?
Oh, I think
he took a
León.
team. I think it was León. Yeah, he took a team that was kind of like not expected to do much, and pretty sure they won the league, and they were like kind of a high flying team, and so he was always going to be linked back to Mexico at some point, especially if it didn't go well with Costa Rica. So,
well, looking forward to your coverage from St. Louis. We'll catch up with you next week and hear all about it.
All right, guys, take it easy. Take care.
Be good.
Take care, Felipe. Felipe Cardenas, make sure you're following him. Felipe Carr on Twitter. We're going to take a break. We'll get back into the Twitter timeline right after this.
Looking for future leaders we can trust and believe in? Look no further than the high school student athletes right here in Georgia. High school sports teach young people how to be effective leaders. It begins by making their grades and being on time for practice. It includes learning to listen, following directions, accepting responsibility, being a good role model. And it's about respect for officials, opponents, the rules, and each other. The result? It transcends sports. It gives us hope for the future. High school sports. There's so much more than just a game. This message presented by the Georgia High School Association and the Georgia Athletic Directors Association.
Today's show is presented by Appolinsky and Associates, personal injury lawyers with over 30 years of experience, supporters of Atlanta United, Faction, and Inter-Atlanta Youth Football Club. If you've been hurt in a wreck, contact Steve today at steve@aa-legal.com or call in 24/7 at 404-377-9191. The initial consultation is free.
We know that every driver is different, and a one-size policy does not fit all. That's why Country Financial offers a variety of discounts, so you get the coverage you need and the savings you deserve. From good driver to good student, multi-policy to multi-car, we've got a discount to suit every driver. Call Jason Wright at 678-568-6871 today to see what you could save. On Facebook at Jason Wright Agency or by phone at 678-568-6871. Discounts vary by state. Policies issued by Country Mutual Insurance Company, Country Preferred Insurance Company, or Country Casualty Insurance Company, Bloomington, Illinois.
Welcome back. Soccer Down here, September 5th, Thursday Thoughts edition of the show. Get U.S.-Mexico tomorrow. Can't wait to see what this lineup could look like for the United States. Is it going to be what Greg Berhalter sees as his number one lineup out of who he has available? Is it going to be a little experimental? It's a little interesting because these teams just faced off in the Gold Cup final not that long ago. Does Berhalter use this opportunity to give Miles Robinson, for example, his first cap, or to give some less heralded players an opportunity against Mexico? I can't wait to see what the approach is. And then flip side from Tata Martino, what's he thinking? Is he going to try to blend his squad a little bit in a game that, yes, it doesn't count for anything. Yes, it's a friendly. Yes, it's an exhibition. There's always big pride on the line with U.S.-Mexico, and it's not just your run-of-the-mill friendly. It'll have more spice to it than U.S.-Uruguay, for example. So even though there's not a trophy at the end of it, it's not a World Cup qualifier, it's still a little more meaningful than just your average match. So how do Berhalter and Tata deal with that? How do the players deal with it, especially young guys who haven't faced this before? It's a pretty intriguing match. I kind of wish it wasn't so soon after the Gold Cup final, but I want to see where this goes. And that lineup, when it gets announced, that's the biggest thing for me tomorrow is, all right, who's playing, and then what does it look like in terms of the style, as Berhalter still, I think, kind of tinkering with what his stamp on the team is going to be in the long run. We're going to get into your Thursday thoughts on Twitter. Tweet them at us at Soccer Down here. I wanted to share this one with you, and I don't think Nick will be happy completely with it. He'll be happy with it in some ways because it's an Italian legend, but it is not from his club, Milan. On this day in 1994, a striker who went on to make 786 appearances for his club scored his first professional goal. Francesco Totti.
Oh, wow.
307 goals in 786 appearances for Roma. He scored his first goal on this day in 1994.
Wow.
Totti was amazing.
And it blows me away that it's 1994.
He played forever. I mean,
I know.
Totti was ever present and just gave everything to Roma, and you don't see that very much anymore. You know, I mean, I look at MLS right now, and even guys who are coming to the end of their career, and Nick Raimondo, Kyle Beckerman. You think of them with Real Salt Lake, but they didn't spend their whole career with Real Salt Lake. Guys who've played a ton of matches in this league. Chad Marshall bounced around from Columbus to Seattle. Jeff Larentowicz has been multiple places. Michael Parker has been multiple places. Beasler and Zusi are probably the closest, and I think I have to go back and look and see if he does have this record. Kobe Jones is the one, though, who started his career in MLS with the LA Galaxy and ended it with the LA Galaxy. There's just not many of those anymore. And in other parts of the world, it's the same story. Like, you're typically moving around a good bit for a guy like Totti to get to, nearly 800 matches for one club. It's unbelievable.
Crazy. And, that kind of fabric that ties you to a team. You're right. I mean, I was trying to rack my brain as you were sitting there going through MLS, and those were the first two that popped into my head as long tenured individuals with a club. But that was me basically looking at it team by team and going, nope. Okay. And then, so, I mean, it is the rare bird these days. And I think that it's just something that has been a part of that particular generation where they thought that this is where they were supposed to be. This is where they were going to do it. You fall in love with the place. You fall in love with the club. You fall in love with their fans. And this is where you were supposed to be who you were, and you were supposed to be there for the duration.
I mean, through the end of the 2018 season, the numbers of most minutes played in MLS, none of the top 10 did it with just one club. They all moved around. You're talking about Nick Raimondo, Kyle Beckerman, Kevin Hartman, goalkeeper. And goalkeepers can go a little bit longer, but they move around too. Chad Marshall, Steve Ralston, Jeff Larentowicz, Bobby Boswell, Drew Moore, Brian Carroll, Joe Cannon, all moved around multiple clubs. So what Totti accomplished at Roma, unbelievable. And he scored his first professional goal on this day in 1994 at 18.
25. That's 25 years. 25 years. An entire quarter of a century when that went down. That just blows you away when you think about it and you step back for a second and sit there and go, man, that was 25 years of
work.
Feel
old now?
Well, I always feel old. It's just the fact that you sit there and you look back and you go, man, thought it was just yesterday when so-and-so started. And then all of a sudden you turn around and it's like, man, it's been 25 years. No, I always feel old. That's easy.
It's true.
107 years old on my birth certificate.
No, that's not true. That's not true.
Don't feel a day over 108.
Jeez. Totti retired at the end of the 2017 season. Unbelievable. All right, we're going to take a quick break. We're going to get back into the Thursday thoughts right after this.
A ranger station.
I'd like to report a bear hug.
Okay.
I put out my campfire and Smokey Bear hugged me.
So you drowned the fire, you stirred it, drowned it again, and felt that it was cold?
Uh-huh.
Yep, he's just letting you know you did good.
Bear hug from Smokey Bear. Status update.
I'm gonna let you go now. There are many ways to start a fire, but one sure way to put it out. Learn how you can do your part at SmokeyBear.com.
Sponsored by the U.S. Forest Service Ad Council and your state forester.
As a business owner, you know that every year brings new challenges and opportunities. The success of your business demands expertise and focus. And Country Financial can help you keep that focus by helping ensure you have the right insurance protection in place to meet your goals. Jason Wright can help you create a customized insurance plan that has coverages designed just for your business. Give Jason a call at 678-568-6871 or reach him on Facebook at Jason Wright Agency. Coverages vary by state. Policies issued by Country Mutual Insurance Company, Bloomington, Illinois.
This is what matters. This is beyond X's and O's. This is the difference mutual respect makes. This is what character looks like. This is what defines us in Georgia. This is sportsmanship. School sports. It's not the outcome that matters most, but the way the games are played. This message presented by the Georgia High School Association and the Georgia Athletic Directors Association.
If you've been hurt in a car wreck, contact my friend Steve Apolinski of Apolinski and Associates. He's been representing individuals for over 30 years throughout Georgia and Alabama. Email him at steve@aa-legal.com or call him 24/7 at 404-377-9191. The initial consultation is free.
You're listening to Soccer Down Here daily on SDH Networks, a division of OSG Sports. Find us at Soccer Down Here on Facebook and Twitter. The time is now the top of the hour. Peep, y'all.
Welcome back. Soccer Down Here, September 5th. Give us your Thursday thoughts on Twitter at Soccer Down Here. We'll get into the timeline in just a sec. Kobe Jones played from 1996 to 2007 with the LA Galaxy. He had played professionally before that. I was trying to look for comparisons to what Francesco Totti did playing 25 years with Roma. Some of the longest runs like that in MLS, well, one, MLS turns 25 next year, so that just tells you
kind of hard.
You need to know. Daniel Price was born in 1994, by the way, if you want to feel older, John.
No worries there. Not a surprise.
He just wanted to make us feel old, because I feel old as well. Logan Pause played 12 years with the Chicago Fire. Spent his whole career in Chicago. C.J. Brown played his whole career with Chicago, but he started with San Francisco in the old A-League. Zach Scott played with Seattle, but that was between USL and MLS from 2002 to 2016. You know, those are the ones. I mean, I think it's maybe a little unfair to keep a Chris Wondolowski off the list. He's a little awkward because he was in Houston. He was with San Jose, Houston, and went back to a different San Jose because it's different. It's a little awkward, but Wando and his long career, Eddie Robinson was part of that Houston-San Jose move as well. You just haven't seen it here, really. And, you know, as we look at completing year 3 of Atlanta United, I wonder who will be that guy. You know, is there anybody in this current group that could be looking at that kind of career, spending it entirely in Atlanta? It's just hard to do these days. It doesn't happen really much of anywhere in the world, let alone Major League Soccer. Yeah,
and you'd have to sit there and either look at Atlanta United's roster, and then there are obvious choices, and then you look at Atlanta United 2, and then you wonder that individual, if they're with Atlanta United 2, would have to have such an uptick immediately at such a young age that they're put in the lineup and they're going to be there for a while. I mean, you'd have to be 17, 18, 19 years old and then be there and be put in the first team, and you're staying with the first team and you're tied to it forever and ever, and there's no movement. So, I mean, to be able to try to plug someone into that idea, that's a rough math problem.
We'll see what happens. It's a big part, I think, of growing a club, and when you have that symbol, that player that, you know, is ever present for the shirt, it adds to it, as Totti did for Roma. All right, what else do we have on the Twitter timeline, John?
Well, we have news out of NYCFC.
Okay, what do we have out of NYCFC?
NYCFC today announced that Anton Tinnerholm has agreed to a new multi-year contract with the club.
That's a good move. I like Anton Tinnerholm. I think he has been one of those kind of underrated signings. A Scandinavian signing that worked out, by the way. Minnesota could have taken some lessons on this one.
Yes.
From their early forays into Scandinavia. But Tinnerholm, I think his ability to get forward but also track back and defend has really allowed Dome Tarrant to play the way that he's had NYC playing this year. And mostly a 3-4-3. I think that's where they've looked their best. They can go to the 4-3-3 as well because of the versatility. But Tinnerholm's a guy you want to lock up and keep for a while. That's a smart move.
Quoting Tinnerholm in the release, extending my contract with NYCFC is the one thing I really wanted to do, and it was a simple choice. Since the very first game last season, I felt New York is the place to be, and NYCFC is the club to be at when you're enjoying your life and career so much. There's been no doubt for me that I wanted to re-sign here. End of paragraph 1.
We have some more news.
Uh-oh.
According to a video that Atlanta United just posted, Franco Escobar has cut his hair very short and bleached it.
Do we know the color?
It's bleached it.
Like blonde bleached, or like the silver that Joseph does, or?
It's looking pretty just bleached out. Pretty blonde. I don't think it's silver. No, I don't think it's silver. The light, he's kind of walking through shade, so it's a little bit hard to tell. Maybe it's silver. I think it's just blonde. We'll find out here soon enough. But
yes.
Yeah, Escobar going with a different style. He had let the hair grow out kind of long there for a minute.
Like I said, didn't know if he went full Silver Surfer like Joseph or he went blonde, and that's why I was asking.
Nah, the silver is a whole different thing. But just bleaching it out, I think that's what Franco did here. So, all right, there's your new hairstyle of the day. What else is on the Twitters?
El Mataflow. Oh, and by the way, Swansea top of the ladder in the championship after beating Leeds United last week.
Okay.
I know some. Yeah, it was. Well, a fellow Swansea City supporter, so I had to drop that in there. I know some hate the international break, but that's what made me fall in love with the game. That said, I wanted to know, one, if you've been watching World Cup qualifiers on YouTube, and two, what you think of FIFA broadcasting earlier stages on it.
I love that they're broadcasting it. I think it's just anytime you get these games available, it's a good thing. It's a good thing for the players involved because it's more, just more eyeballs. It's a guy in one of these smaller countries playing in preliminary round qualifiers who might have never really had much of a game film at any kind of high level. Oh, it's out there now. And that's going to help these players get seen and get noticed and move to bigger clubs. So that part's really good. There's always drama with a World Cup qualifier, no matter if it's a first round preliminary match between team 205 and team 180 in the FIFA rankings.
Guam and the Maldives.
You can still get chaos. You can still get very interesting things. So good on FIFA for putting those games out there on YouTube, just making it available. That's great. I'm with Mataflow on this. Like, when I was growing up and falling in love with the game, it was the national team that was the first thing I had to grab onto, and I think my generation is similar in that way because I started watching the games when I learned what World Cup qualifying was, going into 1990. And the U.S. process to get there. And before that, there was Olympic qualifiers. So you got to know, for me, I got to learn about the American game through the national team. You didn't have to qualify for 94, but you had a lot of friendlies, and it was all national team because you didn't have a league. You didn't have anything else to fall back on. Now, though, the current generation is falling in love with the game, and their strongest connection with the game is through their club. And their domestic club. I'm not talking about fans of, Liverpool, Arsenal, Real Madrid, Barcelona. I'm talking about, people who grow up in Kansas City and are sporting Kansas City fans, and that's what they're worried about. I feel like the national team in the U.S. is less important than it used to be. And that's a little sad in some ways. I don't know if it's a bad thing, though, because now you have that club team grabbing your attention for 9-10 months of the year, and in the off season there's still conversation about transfer windows and academy signings and all the things that go on in the life cycle of a club that you just don't have with a national team. So I think it's a good evolution, but in the U.S., yeah, I still have a little bit of that, okay, national team's playing. All right, this is a big deal. Oh, wait a minute, it's not as big a deal as it used to be. Okay. It's different.
Second paragraph from Jorge about it. He says he was watching Seychelles and Rwanda, as was I. The level of play isn't great, but the passion and intensity are certainly there. Yesterday, I watched Liberia, Sierra Leone with my Liberian coworker, and it's something I'm going to remember for a long time. This is what it's about for me.
Yeah, that type of stuff's awesome. I did not get to watch the Liberia-Sierra Leone game, but that's one that I would have loved to have watched it with a few people that I've known and spent time with in the soccer world. We had a player with Atlanta FC who went on to play for the Silverbacks and played professionally, actually represented Sierra Leone a couple of times, Abdul Bangura, who is still coaching with Soccer in the Streets. And Abdul's one of the best people I've met in the game. And, when he would get a chance to talk about representing his country, is just unbelievable. And in high school, we had an exchange student from Liberia who played on my high school team and scored a boatload of goals and could have been one of those guys who played for a national team and played professionally, but first year in college did his ACL and was never quite the same after that. So those are two countries that, I know a little about through the game, and I've had some experiences with it, and I would have loved to have been able to have that type of experience that Jorge did, watching that with somebody who is, living and dying with every kick. That's very cool.
And just so everybody knows, 2 matches today in CAF qualifiers, 10:30, bottom of the hour, Chad and Sudan. So if you're looking for political intrigue tied into a FIFA World Cup qualifier, that's it. Somalia, Zimbabwe is at 11 o'clock. But yeah, Chad and Sudan will definitely be on the YouTube here in Office HD.
And I believe it is it's at least listed on BN Sport Connect on livesoccertv.com. Bahrain and Iraq and Justin Merrim at 12:30.
Oh, there you go.
And other games in qualifying the rest of the day, Qatar and Afghanistan at 12:30. Nepal and Kuwait at 1 o'clock. There's a couple games going on right now. India and Oman are scoreless. Palestine and Uzbekistan are scoreless, both in the 12th minute. Sri Lanka is down to Turkmenistan in the 12th minute, 1-0. And Tajikistan and Kyrgyzstan are scoreless in the 12th minute.
Throw the records out the window, yeah?
Well, you have to. I love World Cup qualifying and the stage of it, and my favorite video game experience when it comes to the FIFA franchise was the FIFA Road to the World Cup 98, where it was the first game they did that actually had a full-blown qualification process that was the exact qualification for the 1998 World Cup, and probably about 200 national teams were in the game on the old PlayStation 1. So you could pick a
national team?
You could pick a national team, and you played the qualifying cycle out. It was very cool. They don't still do that anymore. Like, they have a very limited process for the national team stuff. It was awesome. And we would do this in college. We would pick a random team and try to qualify for the World Cup with it. It was so much fun.
Chris Hutchison with a hashtag random Thursday thought.
Okay.
I'd like to know what our players and coaches and opposing players and coaches think of the turf at MBS. No axe to grind, just curious.
Just from what I've heard, they love it. Tata Martino, for example, did not want grass brought in for the Mexico friendly with Venezuela. He was good with the turf. I believe there were some quotes attributed to players afterwards that said it played really well. I've never heard any complaints about it. And as we've talked about before with turf, I think a lot of it comes down to how often you replace it. and it was replaced. Was it at the beginning of the season or just into the season this year, which would have been less than or about 18 months after it was installed, which is
after the
pretty
football
good.
championships.
I can't remember when it was. I know it was new. I know it's been new most of the season, but I think it happened in the season when new turf was put down. And, I mean, it's watching games on grass and on turf. There's been grass fields in the league this year that I would much prefer the surface at Mercedes-Benz Stadium.
Daniel Price, with the beginning of his Thursday thoughts. Much like how California has 3 teams, maybe 4. If you could bring in one more team into MLS here in the state of Georgia, where would it be? Savannah? Along that same thought pattern, what other state would get a second or third team respectively?
I mean, you have your existing like expansion candidates, but let's say you won the multi-billion-dollar lottery, and you can just say, you know what, I'm going to put the team where I want, and yeah, you don't have to worry about money. It's going to be all taken care of. So I get to pick anywhere I want to go. And I'm like, all right, I can't go to Atlanta because there's already a team. So where else could I go in Georgia?
What about the borough and hooking up with Van Tassel?
I don't know if you could make a go of it from an MLS perspective there. Savannah would even be a stretch, and that's the ultimate problem is you have to have a basic size of a market to be able to pull it off, to be at that level. And I don't think there is another one in the state of Georgia that could consistently draw 20,000. That would be my point. But if I said, you know what, I can do whatever I want, where do I want to put it? Savannah would probably be the one because I feel like I could draw a little bit from a wider base.
Draw from South Carolina with Charleston, draw from everybody inside I-95 and I-16, and you've centralized yourself?
Yeah, I think you could do something like that. I think you could do that more there than you could in a Macon or in an Athens or in a Columbus. So, yeah, that's the direction I would go with it. Other states, looking at places like that would be off the beaten path but worth a chance. What comes to mind for you?
Well, I mean, as I'm sitting here and going, I'm literally going state by state, trying to figure out.
Well, states that have a team, so it'd be like a second team. So, like in the state of Washington, for example, is there another market that could work? I can't really think of one. I can't really think of one in Oregon.
No.
I can't really think of one in Utah, Colorado. No. You do have now St. Louis and Kansas City, even though Kansas City is in Kansas. There's not another one. I mean,
Omaha and Lincoln? If you got to play at Memorial Stadium?
Well, it's a different state entirely, but yeah, I mean, there's some college markets like that could be interesting for sure.
Because Oklahoma's got OKC and Tulsa. Texas has got 11 billion cities.
Yeah, I think the question in terms of viability is always going to come down to the size of the market, and I think most of those markets are already being discussed for either USL Championship or MLS. We do have an update thanks to our crack research staff led by Tafka. The turf was installed. New turf was installed in April. Thomas Chewin chimed in as well. So,
okay,
good work, guys.
Yeah, I mean, because here if you look at it from a media market perspective, here in the state of Georgia, outside of Atlanta, every other media market registered for television is below 100. So you're looking at a bunch of media markets that are 110 to 120 in market size. You're looking at Augusta, Savannah, Macon, Columbus, Thomasville, Tallahassee. They're all 100 and below. So the population isn't there, and they had to add cities to Thomasville. It's like Thomasville, Tallahassee, Valdosta, and they consider that one TV market that puts them in the low 100s. So It's just a population thing.
I think Nick has the best answer to the question about other states. Memphis, in addition to Nashville and Tennessee, Memphis is far enough removed, but could support it. And I think the support they've had for Memphis 901 shows that. So, yeah, Memphis is actually a really good shout.
Yeah, because you get to pull from Arkansas, because we know what the Derby means in the NPSL to that. So you pull from Mississippi because you have franchises that play in South Haven and are considered Memphis suburbs. So you've got that pull there. You've got the pull from Arkansas. You've got that whole section of the state of Tennessee plus Missouri in that market. So, yeah, that's a good one.
But if I could start a MLS team in Valdosta and put the King Frog on the front of the shirt, I'm in.
See, King Frog FC or King Frog SC?
No, it'd just be Valdosta SC, but it'd have the King Frog on the front.
Okay.
That'd be sponsored by King Frog.
There you go. Daniel Price. It's November 10th, Sunday morning before MLS Cup 2019. Atlanta United's hosting the Galaxy after a crazy postseason for the ages. The most important question comes your way moments before you head into the city to prepare. What's for breakfast? Waffle House.
It's a big day. It's a big moment.
Day.
I'm going to assume the game's in the evening, so I'm not thinking.
Pace yourself.
No, it's not that. It's just like, if the game's at 2 o'clock, I'm probably not eating as big of a breakfast. If the game's at 8 o'clock, then, okay, I get to relax and eat, whatever I want for breakfast, and then I can chill for a while and then, prep for the game and eat ahead of the game. I don't like to eat a lot ahead of a game. So if it's an evening game, it's a big day. It's you kind of want to have the special breakfast to celebrate the occasion. I will call it at. I haven't had him yet at El Tesoro, but something like Huevos Rancheros is what I'm going to go with.
Okay.
Or chilaquiles. I would go chilaquiles as well. The chilaquiles at Las Margaritas. Las Margaritas sponsors they sponsor sometimes the La Doce tailgate. They also sponsor the All Stripes tailgate. Awesome food. And their chilaquiles are really good.
I know this will shock you, but I've never had that.
I'm not shocked at all. Do you have any clue what either one of those are?
No.
You don't know Huevos Rancheros? That one's a little more common. I think John is Googling as we speak. He has muted the phone or dropped it so he can Google and look into Huevos Rancheros and chilaquiles. I think he still is. All right. We're going to take a quick break on that note. We'll come back and get more into the Twitter timeline and your questions, which are very good on a Thursday. This is perfect Thursday thoughts kind of stuff. We'll get back into it right after this.
A ranger station.
I'd like to report a bear hug.
Okay.
I put out my campfire and Smokey Bear hugged me.
So you drowned the fire, you stirred it, drowned it again, and felt that it was cold?
Uh-huh.
Yeah, but he's just letting you know you did good.
Bear hug from Smokey Bear. Status update.
I'm gonna let you go now. There are many ways to start a fire, but one sure way to put it out. Learn how you can do your part at SmokeyBear.com.
Sponsored by the U.S. Forest Service Ad Council and your state forester.
As a business owner, you know that every year brings new challenges and opportunities. The success of your business demands expertise and focus. And Country Financial can help you keep that focus by helping ensure you have the right insurance protection in place to meet your goals. Jason Wright can help you create a customized insurance plan that has coverages designed just for your business. Give Jason a call at 678-568-6871 or reach him on Facebook at Jason Wright Agency. Coverages vary by state. Policies issued by Country Mutual Insurance Company, Bloomington, Illinois.
This is what matters. This is beyond X's and O's. This is the difference mutual respect makes. This is what character looks like. This is what defines us in Georgia. This is sportsmanship. School sports. It's not the outcome that matters most, but the way the games are played. This message presented by the Georgia High School Association and the Georgia Athletic Directors Association.
If you've been hurt in a car wreck, contact my friend Steve Apolinsky of Apolinsky and Associates. He's been representing individuals for over 30 years throughout Georgia and Alabama. Email him at steve@aa-legal.com or call him 24/7 at 404-377-9191. The initial consultation is free.
Welcome back. I don't know if John was successful on the Googles looking up Huevos Rancheros and Chilaquiles.
See, Huevos Rancheros I knew.
Okay, you did know that one. I was a little concerned.
Oh, okay, so it's one word. Okay, because I was trying to do Chilaquiles as 2 words.
Oh, my. Yeah, Chilaquiles.
Okay.
That's some good stuff.
Okay, so tortillas, green or red salsa, pulled chicken, cheese, and refried beans. I could do it at the last part, but the rest of it I'm in for.
Oh, that's good stuff. It's a lot of times they take kind of the stale chips and make it with the sauce, and different places do it differently. It's one of those that you'll have it in 5 different restaurants, and it'll be a little different in every one. Las Margaritas does really good ones. La Parrilla does really good ones as well. So,
that reminds me. I need to go somewhere for dinner that I haven't gone to dinner for a while.
Well, there you go. Go to La Parrilla.
No, I wasn't going to go to La Parrilla. I was going to go someplace else.
Oh, okay. Well, we'll go somewhere else. You could go, and we had this big question, and this actually goes back to the breakfast question. Had this conversation last night with our friend Jarrett Smith in the booth at Fifth Third Bank Stadium. He said that Katie, his wife, has found a great place for crepes in East Atlanta. And I was intrigued because crepes are quite delicious. And that would be another option for this big special breakfast before a big day. And it has been recommended that Juliana's Crepes and Coffee on Lake Avenue is the spot to go. So there's another plug for you.
Yeah, I was thinking about Las Brasas tonight. I haven't been to Las Brasas in a while.
Like a week. Probably.
Is it a week?
You go there all the time now.
Yeah,
You're
really?
welcome, by the way.
Daniel Price's Prize Picks going on. Are we saving that for tomorrow?
No, let's save that for tomorrow. We'll dig deep. Jill Robbins chimes in on the secret text line with a suggestion on the city for a second MLS team in the state. Pittsburgh in Pennsylvania. And they could support it. I don't think they have the ownership currently, but if you won the multi-billion-dollar lottery and you could drop it wherever you wanted, Pittsburgh would be a great location.
Yeah, I mean, we've seen, you and I've seen what the Riverhounds do at Highmark. And, I mean, that's a great location for what the Riverhounds do. And I've always wanted to see if it was possible to launch a ball into the river from the pitch at Highmark.
It's possible.
Waiting for that moment to happen.
I'm sure it already has.
But yeah, I mean, if you got to, I wonder if you could play at Heinz, or do you just build your own soccer specific stadium? And this is my other question. If you win the multi-gazillion-dollar lottery, are you going into an existing facility, or are you building your own?
It depends
to
on
be
where
separate?
you're at. I mean, if I'm winning the multi-billion-dollar lottery and I'm putting the team in Savannah, then I'm going to have to build something.
True.
If I'm going into Pittsburgh, then it would depend. I mean, Heinz has had soccer before, so it can work. Would it work for drawing, 40,000 a game? Which should be the target pretty soon. Pretty soon, that should be what teams are looking at. Is we want to draw 40,000 a game. That's the vision. When you look at it from a mission vision type of idea, the vision is what you're striving for. You're not always going to get there, and you're not going to get there necessarily soon, but that's what you want to hit. And that should be what teams are thinking fairly soon. So, okay.
Just don't ask Steve Bruce about it.
Why? What did he say?
He didn't know if Miguel Almiron was used to playing in front of 50,000 people a match.
Oh, that's a whole nother thing that's just stupid. Just dumb. But, yeah, if I'm going to be in Pittsburgh, I would probably look at Heinz Field, and I would then have to figure out how to draw 40 to 45. And again, I don't know the configuration. If you just did the lower bowl, how many would that be? Can I consistently fill that? That's what I'd be shooting for. So it would depend on the market about the stadium side of it and what's available. But, yeah, I'm getting over the fact of MLS teams being scared to be big. So don't be scared. Let's do this.
Let's see. Heinz, full capacity currently is 68.4. And I'm trying to figure out if they've found a way to break up upper and lower. We can't quite find anything just yet when it comes to upper and lower. But the 3 matches that they have had at Heinz, Manchester City AC Milan drew 34-3. The U.S. women over Costa Rica in 2015 drew 44,000. And as a part of the ICC, they had Benfica and Borussia Dortmund play in front of 16,000.
That's a tough draw. That U.S. women's crowd would be the one you're shooting for on a regular. So, yeah, that could work. Pittsburgh would be an interesting one, and their names never really came up in MLS expansion conversations. I'm assuming just because of the ownership. There just hasn't been the owner who said, I want to bring it to Pittsburgh. But we'll see down the road. These are the days that I love on this show where things just completely go sideways and get all weird. We're getting food recommendations now. Thomas Jewin chimes in and says Denver next time. So this would be next year for a match with the Rapids. He is recommending the Huevos Rancheros at Sam's number 3 with the pork green chili. I'm in. That sounds amazing. I am all in.
Shiva, coming off of Daniel Price's What's for Breakfast, she kind of went sideways with it a little bit.
Okay.
On the MLS Cup final day. She says, here's a random one for you. How about it's Sunday, November 10th, you wake up and realize you have to watch MLS Cup final in Yankee Stadium. You feel embarrassed. ABC will be showing a final in Major League Soccer, and it's held in the baseball stadium where patches of grass randomly pop up and players have to stop and push it back in.
That would be sad, yes.
Suboptimal.
It would be suboptimal because also Atlanta United would not be in it because it's NYC hosting it. And, yeah, not ideal. I would hope, and you never know because a lot of it would depend on how the Yankees do, which I am not up on my American League standings at this point. The Yankees are pretty good right now, eh?
Yes, they are. Efforting.
So you're going to have some potential issues with
Rensselaer Field. Hello.
The Mets are not bad, but I don't think they're going to make the playoffs, right?
No.
Okay, so that might be Citi Field.
Regular season standings, the Yankees have a rather large lead in the American League East at present. They are 10 up on Tampa.
It's going to get tricky.
10 up on Tampa. And they are game and a half, it looks like, ahead of Houston for the number 1 overall record. Houston's at 90-50, so it'll be a battle. But, yeah, unless something really, really happens, with 21 games left in the season, the Yankees have a 10-game lead on Tampa in the American League East.
Yeah, it's going to get real weird with scheduling. Just buckle up, folks. Daniel Price says that you need to be taken on a Latin food tour, John.
Not for dispute. No, I won't debate that.
Yeah,
just
I
know that I'm not a very spicy food person.
Not all Latin food is spicy. I don't know who started this vicious rumor. That is not the case. So
Yeah,
don't
so
be
for me,
afraid.
it's going to have to be mildest for me.
So you are like the MLS clubs that are afraid to be big. You need to stop being scared. I can't tell you to get a dog because you have a dog. So
Correct.
you need to. It's okay. You can handle it.
There's never been a fan of spicy food.
It's not all spicy, John.
And that's
Again,
fine.
Vicious rumors. Not all Latin food is spicy. There's plenty of Latin food that's not spicy. And that's
I
where you'll
usually
live.
have
That's
it when I go to Kirkwood.
Yes, and that's one particular variant of Latin food with our friends at Matador, which is a great spot.
Check.
You have a different variant of Latin food with the Peruvian style at Las Brasas.
Check.
So you've had those, but that's a small sample size. A very small sample size. So it's all good. What else do we have on the Twitters?
Tafka, I promise, I have not abandoned my opus. It's coming. I can fill the deader of the FIFA International break next week.
Okay, cool. Thank you, Tafka. And hey, you're a very busy man. You're leading up the crack research staff here at Soccer Down Here.
Off of Chris Furmeister's Q&A with Darren Eales, where Darren told Chris at Pro Soccer USA, we've got our close connections with our teams in Argentina regarding a rumored Atlanta United River Plate friendly. Obviously, we have the ability to schedule those sorts of games just because of the connections we have with clubs around the world. So, Tafka, with this friendly in mind, with River taking near 2 months off from mid-December to late January, with Atlanta needing solid competition for preseason fitness for CONCACAF Champions League, there could not be a more perfect time for this match, and it could be yearly. What a tradition it could be! Exclamation point.
Yeah, it's possible. The Argentine league changes its format every 5 minutes, it seems like. So committing to anything yearly could be a bit of a challenge. Just keep that in mind. It is a 23-week season this year when it comes to the Argentine Superliga. The break that they have is between match day 16 and 17. Match day 16 completed on December 8th, and match day 17 kicks off on January 26th. So if this was to happen, you would probably be looking at January 19 would be the time frame you'd be wanting to do if you're a team like River, because River would be preparing for a match on the road at Godoy Cruz on January 26th. And it could move, generally they move a couple games in Argentina to the Friday night. They have some games on the Saturday. They have some games on the Sunday. Occasionally they have a game on a Monday on that match week. But the week of January 26th is when the season restarts. You'd probably want to do the friendly a week before that, and a lot of it depends on when the MLS teams open camp. Because last year, that would have been in the first week of Atlanta United's training camp. If training camp opens a week or two earlier, it could make some sense. It's not ideal for Atlanta United because it's so early in camp, but it could work. It could make some sense. And it'll be something to keep an eye on. The flip side would then be to do it because the Argentine season is a little funky. Their season final match day is March 1st. Now, then they go into the Copa de Superliga, which is like a mini league of 11 weeks. I'm not sure what the break is between March 1st and that. There could be an opportunity to do it sometime in March. There could be an opportunity to do it in the summer as well before the following Superliga season starts. So you've got some flexibility built in. A lot of it just depends on MLS training camp opening dates, what the CONCACAF schedule looks like for next year, and if there's other things that River is attached to, like the Copa Argentina, which I'm not even going to try to figure out when that thing starts for next year because it's chaos.
They're playing the round of 64 and the round of 8 simultaneously.
Sure. I feel like the week of January 19th would be the one that would make sense. if you're Atlanta United and River Plate looking to do this for 2020.
Or, Tafka says, what if MLS creates a preseason tourney for CCL qualified teams where one CONMEBOL team is invited, 2 groups of 3, round-robin, single-match, championship game, and it'd give every team 2 or 3 good matches in January?
I would do this. That's a great idea. I would have 2 different groups that do it. You put 2 MLS teams that are in it, and this is going to... You might be, well, you would be leaving the Canadian team out because that could be the 5th one. But your 4 U.S. qualifiers, you put 2 groups, you do 2 MLS teams on one side, 2 on the other. You do 2 South American teams on one side, 2 on the other. The problem is, and it might need to be just a MLS Argentina tournament, because Brazil's not on the same schedule as Argentina. Colombia's not on the same schedule as Argentina. Argentina's on its own island in terms of the schedule and the league format. It's weird. So it might need to be a partnership between MLS and the Superliga in Argentina and do that as the lead-in to the start of the summer, after the summer break in Argentina, and the start of these Champions League teams preparing for Champions League. That could be kind of cool.
Eric Schwartz listened to the at 929 The Game interviews from the WrestleMania golf tournament on Off the Woodwork, and they are just chef's kiss 5 of 5. Would recommend. I laughed out loud when LGP said, I'm a good guy, when asked about his yellow cards and on-field reputation.
He's a good guy. LGP's
a good guy.
He just, sometimes gets a little upset. That's all. It happens.
It's all good. Elevated heart rate.
Yeah, a little bit of that happens. It's okay. Yeah, that was great. Again, Julian Gressel and his golf tournament helped raise over $90,000 for a station soccer project, which is just awesome. And to have so many teammates support him, and then to also have 92.9 out there broadcasting all day and get all of these interviews, it was very, very cool to see all of it come together. We're going to take a break while you go download those interviews, while you go look up breakfast places or Latin restaurants to send to John, whatever you want to do. And we're going to come back with our final segment right after this.
A ranger station.
I'd like to report a bear hug.
Okay.
I put out my campfire and Smokey Bear hugged me.
So you drowned the fire, you stirred it, drowned it again, and felt that it was cold?
Uh-huh.
Yeah, but he's just letting you know you did good.
Bear hug from Smokey Bear. Status update.
I'm going to let you go now. There are many ways to start a fire, but one sure way to put it out. Learn how you can do your part at SmokeyBear.com.
Sponsored by the U.S. Forest Service Ad Council and your state forester.
As a business owner, you know that every year brings new challenges and opportunities. The success of your business demands expertise and focus. And Country Financial can help you keep that focus by helping ensure you have the right insurance protection in place to meet your goals. Jason Wright can help you create a customized insurance plan that has coverages designed just for your business. Give Jason a call at 678-568-6871 or reach him on Facebook at Jason Wright Agency. Coverages vary by state. Policies issued by Country Mutual Insurance Company, Bloomington, Illinois.
This is what matters. This is beyond X's and O's. This is the difference mutual respect makes. This is what character looks like. This is what defines us in Georgia. This is sportsmanship. School sports. It's not the outcome that matters most, but the way the games are played. This message presented by the Georgia High School Association and the Georgia Athletic Directors Association.
If you've been hurt in a car wreck, contact my friend Steve Apolinsky of Apolinsky and Associates. He's been representing individuals for over 30 years throughout Georgia and Alabama. Email him at steve@aa-legal.com or call him 24/7 at 404-377-9191. The initial consultation is free.
Welcome back. Soccer Down here. September 5th edition of the show. Final segment on a Thursday. Thoughts during the international break, where we've talked about all kinds of random things. It's been fun. What else do we have to talk about? Because there's plenty of random things we have not touched upon yet. Yeah, I had a chance to talk to a group of students at Kennesaw State yesterday, Jeff Benedict's class, and that was a question that came up was about, where I kind of saw MLS and soccer as a whole in the United States going. And it's almost two separate conversations. Like, I think soccer as a whole, just as if you want to lump it all together as a business entity in the United States, it is already right there with the major leagues in the U.S. If you throw the Premier League, if you throw La Liga, if you throw Liga MX into it, and a lot of people don't because it's not in English, but ratings, yes, it is the league that gets watched more than anything else in the United States. You throw all that together, and soccer as a whole, there's no question about Big Four and soccer not being part of it. It's Big 4, 5, whatever you want to call it. For MLS specifically, I think you have to look at what's going on with Major League Baseball. Baseball has went from, in my lifetime, mid-'80s being a national sport. The World Series was must-watch. Didn't matter who was in it. You watched it. All-Star Game, you watched it. It was the event of the summer. To now, if your team's not in it, you don't really care. And the World Series is not anywhere near what it used to be. The All-Star Game is just kind of an afterthought at this point. They've done a few things to try to bring interest back into it, like the Home Run Derby, but it's just not really... It's not really as big of a deal as it used to be. Baseball as a whole is not as big of a deal as it used to be. And they have lost the young audience completely. Whereas MLS and soccer as a whole, but MLS as well, has the youngest average audience of any of the major leagues and has a lot of room to grow. Baseball doesn't at the moment. And it's sad that baseball has kind of stuck its head in the sand and isn't figuring this out to a better degree. They've been very slow to embrace, community projects. They've been very slow to try to change the fact that you drive around in neighborhoods where baseball complexes were built not that long ago, and they're not getting used. They're just empty. Just baseball fields sitting there, not getting played on at all. Baseball youth leagues dying. Doesn't mean it's happening everywhere. There are still some that are very strong, and there are still some communities that really embrace it. And the league is what it's always been. But there are plenty of others where it's just not there anymore. It's just not. It doesn't exist like it used to. Soccer is continuing to grow, and I'm with Nick on this. If you're MLS and you see that in Pittsburgh, for example, well, if that owner comes up and says, you know what, we want to be in Pittsburgh and we do have this opportunity to play at Heinz Field, or we're going to build a stadium that seats 40,000 people and we can make a go of this, I would look at what's going on with the Pirates and say, do it. Let's go. Let's do this. I really feel like that in the landscape of sports in North America, the NFL and college football as a whole, is the behemoth. It will be for some time, although there are some major issues that we'll see if they continue to stick their head in the sand on. Basketball is in a great spot. The NBA is in a great spot. I think this last trade window and free agency window shows it. I mean, the discussion around what was going to happen was huge. I think the NBA is in a great spot and going to continue to grow. Baseball, it's getting old. They've got to figure out how to connect with the younger audience. They've got to figure out how to shorten the games. They've got a lot of things to figure out, and there's really not any signs that they are figuring it out. Hockey is what it is. I don't think hockey's going anywhere. I don't think there's a lot of room for growth, but I don't think it's going to have any big decline either. It's not even just that. I mean, yeah, it's a good TV sport, but it's not something that is readily accessible to play growing up. It just isn't. In a lot of places. I mean, even in northern places, it's just you got to have a rink. You've got to have certain things that just aren't always available. So hockey is what it is. It's not going anywhere, but it's not going to grow. MLS has the potential to be right there with everybody else very, very soon in the United States and North America. I really, truly believe that. And that's why this next round of expansion is very important. That's why pushing the teams that are struggling is very important. That's why the investment in the product is very important. These are things that have to happen. And if they do, and it's done correctly, you could be looking in 50 years at a sporting culture that is dominated by MLS and the NBA in North America. I could truly see that.
Shape. You're up 1-0 in the 20th minute. Goal just happened a couple of minutes ago, and I'm watching.
Excelente.
Let's see. Jorge B., soccer over there, and I think we talked about this a little bit yesterday. The FCF announced a friendly between Colombia and Peru on November 15th, time TBD at Hard Rock, as a part of the preparation for the World Cup qualifiers.
No, we talked about Colombia and Brazil yesterday. That's at Hard Rock this week. But that's another one at Hard Rock, as Inter Miami is trying to build things up in some ways and piggyback off of it. So,
we need clients. We
need
dates to come
we need
in.
lots of things. Miami needs players and lots of stuff, but I don't think they're not scheduling it for that. They're scheduling it just to get, I think, more soccer in South Florida. So I'm excited about where it can go. If I'm Miami, I've said it for a long time, I think going Colombian on the player roster would be a very smart move.
And at Mr. Fantastic 08, reminding us about the idea about Palacios possibly joining Inter Miami, and wondering also if we think that Inter will be a big threat in their first season like Atlanta did in theirs.
Yep. I think they will be. I think they have to be.
Yeah.
Miami's not a market that's going to accept we'll be good in 3 years. No.
See Marlins, Florida.
Anything. I mean, if you're not winning championships in Miami, nobody's talking about you. So they have to come out big and bold, and they should be wearing pink. I really think that they're missing the boat on the kits. They
pink and
should
black?
be pink and black. It should be pink kits with black trim, black shorts, black socks for the primary, and the secondary can be black with pink trim. They should go all in. I think they're doing white for the home and pink trim and black with pink trim for the away.
No,
go bold. Go pink.
No. Go bold. Bartimus Prime on New York State. He's saying a second city could be either Buffalo or Albany.
Buffalo would be interesting. I don't know Albany that well. I don't know what kind of market you'd have in Albany, New York, but Buffalo could be interesting. I mean, it's funny when you talk about a second city in a state. Rochester was inches away from getting Kansas City. The Wizards were to the point that MLS delayed their schedule coming out. It was that close that the Kansas City Wizards would have moved to Rochester, and I'm assuming be the Rochester Rhinos. It was that close, and I think Rochester's window passed. If they had been able to get in at that point, they could have grown up with the league. But now, I mean, they can't get a USL championship team on the field on a regular basis, and now there's even talk that coming into USL League One for 2020 might not happen in 2020. It might be pushed back another year. It stinks because Rochester was such an amazing story in the late 90s and early 2000s to the point that they, drew and marketed themselves into that close of a conversation of having an MLS team relocate there, and they just narrowly missed it. That's one of the great, like, what could have been in a lot of different ways, and we wouldn't have the resurgence of what Sporting Kansas City has become. That wouldn't have happened. But would the Rochester Rhinos, if they'd come in when they did, could they have grown into the modern MLS that we see now? Who knows? It's a fascinating what if to play.
Nick has also chimed in and said that relevant sports groups in Miami desperate for wins after losing La Liga regular season games, and he says Inter just needs to grab Palermo's kits and go with it.
Grab Palermo's kits. I'm totally on board with that. The relevant sports group versus Inter Miami MLS thing will be something to keep an eye on, because they are not copacetic necessarily. So if relevant is going to bring games to Miami, Inter Miami needs to kind of play the guerrilla marketing card off of that and get some shine off of it, where it's not their event, but they can benefit from it. And honestly, if you're relevant sports and you've got another group promoting your event in kind of ways, that's not a bad thing either. So you kind of turn your head to the side and just take it and take the money from people who are coming in to buy tickets because the other soccer organization in town is promoting. I think they can work together without working together, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Tafka has posted a photo of Inter Miami kits, and one of the three is pink with black trim.
They don't have 3 kits, John. Nobody's doing 3 kits, remember?
So what am I staring at?
With out there? There's no kits out there.
Okay.
You're talking about mock-ups and
okay,
possibilities, and I could draw a kit that's going to be
I'll buy it.
Forest green and fuchsia. Doesn't mean it's going to happen.
So okay,
Don't
then the pink mock-up that Tafka
on the
has
internet,
posted.
John.
Then the mock-up that Tafka has posted of pink, I would buy.
Yeah, the site that's usually pretty good on these posted that it was going to be white with pink and black with pink. I don't know what the pink kit was, unless they're going to break the no third kit rule for Miami, which I would, because it's going to sell probably if it looks good.
Mm-hmm.
I would break that rule for Atlanta too, because people are buying the training kits in stupid numbers. So put out a third kit and people would go nuts for it. I think Adidas needs to branch out a little bit. And sorry, if every team doesn't sell enough kits to earn a third kit, well, tough. Don't hold back and don't lose money from an Atlanta and from a Seattle and from a Portland and from an LA Galaxy and an LAFC and a Miami and others and not have a third kit because Colorado and Columbus can't sell a third kit. Don't make one.
It's a you problem.
Don't make one. I'm sure you can make the financials work to where Columbus and Colorado will get a little something from the third kit that somebody else is selling, but why do you hate money?
I mean, the Rose kit that Portland came out with a couple of years ago, I thought that was gorgeous.
I think that was the second kit. I think, if I remember right, they did the green and the rose were 1 and 2, and then they did the retro kit as 3, and eventually the retro kit became the primary kit, and they went with that style for the next round of things. But Kansas City did like an Argyle style that was really cool. Seattle did some third kits that were very cool. Do it. If it's going to sell, do it. If it's not going to sell, don't do it. But don't make that decision across the board. Just say, all right, this team is selling enough kits to earn a third kit. Here's Miami's pink kit. Boom. Cash.
Straight cash, homie. Daniel
Boom.
Price, boom, says, not all Latin food is spicy. Lots of amazing Latin dishes, especially breakfast. Chifles is my favorite. Fried green plantains. Okay, I don't do plantains. Used as a vessel for fresh crumbling cheese, runny egg yolk, and either butter or cream cheese.
Always hating.
I've tried plantains and I'm not a fan.
When did you try plantains?
Oh, God, I can't remember, but it tasted like a radial tire.
You had bad plantains.
True.
They tasted like a radial tire? One, why are you eating tires? And two, plantains should not taste like that. That's very bad.
It's very, very chewy, and it was no. Oh no, I know when it was. It was that when we went to CONCACAF Champions League down in Costa Rica.
You had bad plantains in Costa Rica.
Mm-hmm.
I think you had a particular type of plantains that I'm not as big of a fan of either. I like the maduros. I go more on the sweet side with plantains, and I love maduros. One of my favorites. So give that a try, and don't hate on all plantains.
Bartimus Prime says, I really think a bonus for making CONCACAF Champions League should be a third kit. And this would help those clubs make money on ticket sales, give them a third kit option for the tournament, plus schedule congestion.
Love it. Love it. I'm cool with that. That can be the bar. And if you get in, you get a third kit, and wear the third kit in the CONCACAF Champions League, and there you go. A lot of teams will do a third kit and wear it in their cup competition. So if you do it and you wear it in Open Cup, cool. Okay, that'll get a little bit of buzz for the Open Cup. I'm okay with that if you want to do it across the board. But if you're Adidas and your whole thought process has been, well, there's some teams that don't sell enough to do a third kit, then just don't do a third kit for those teams. I'm okay with that. But CONCACAF Champions League teams, yeah, that's a cool way to do it. I'm good with that.
And let's see. I think I'm raising various types of ire with my plantainless existence.
You should. You're being yelled at.
I'm the same way about
fronts
ceviche.
about
I don't like
plantains.
ceviche either. I'm just not a seafood guy. Really not.
You're not a plantains guy or a seafood guy.
Nope.
And you don't like ceviche.
Nope.
I'm flabbergasted. Duh.
Mm-hmm. Just it might have been a bad version of the plantain, but I'm not a seafood guy, and ceviche. Nope. The boss was shocked when I actually had ceviche when we were in Costa Rica.
And you didn't like it?
No, wasn't a fan.
John.
We've given it to her to take back to the hotel room for later. But yeah, not a fan. Didn't like.
Ceviche is not something you really take back for later. Doesn't go well that way.
And Daniel, is probably true that I'm one of those picky eaters as a kid that never grew out of it.
Yeah, that's true. Nick Alifi asks if you like well done steaks and A1.
Medium rare and either A1 Lee and Perrins or Heinz 57.
I knew Heinz 57 was coming. I knew it. You have you have gotten everybody fired up on this one.
Okay.
At OSG Nelson, just
yeah, at OSG away. Nelson. Go ahead. You just,
away.
Yeah, at me all you want. It's I like my steaks medium rare. I like the
no. That's fine. That's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. The Heinz 57.
But there are also. But I will say this: there are certain brands that I will purchase, and if it's not cooked well, meaning properly, if it's not cooked properly, the way that it's supposed to be done, to where the natural juices don't accentuate the meat that you've cooked. There's sometimes when I will have cooked something on the grill and not completely and totally burned it. I won't put anything on it, because if it's cooked properly, then you don't need to do that. But just as a fail safe, sometimes I will add Heinz 57 or something like that on it. Everybody's
yelling in our private messages in all caps. I love it.
Well, Daniel says I'm a sin against food, and Jorge in El Mato Flow is saying that I'm not supposed to go to Ecuador.
Wow. I got nothing, man. I can't bail you out of this one.
No, I don't. I'm not anticipating that you should. I just look. I've tried it, and I'm not a fan. So you can have mine. I have zero qualm about it. I will buy an extra one, and you can have it when we go to dinner.
See, I'm almost afraid. I want to ask more. I want to find more bad food takes, but I'm almost afraid to.
That's tomorrow.
What is another popular food that you don't care for, John?
Oh goodness, vegetables in general.
I mean, there's plenty of people who do that. I mean, it's a little silly, but okay. You don't like corn?
Oh, I dig corn. Corn on the cob is solid. I don't like cream corn.
Cream corn's actually pretty good. Yeah, you are sounding like one of those childhood picky eaters.
The one that's completely and totally flicked the Swanson vegetable medley off my plate and hit it onto the floor. Yep, that was me.
Yeah, most people did that. That's fine, but most people also grow out of that at some point.
You're assuming that I have a level of food maturity?
I'm trying to find something.
So Jared says that this is worse than his 80s music takes?
Yes, I have to agree with that statement. It is. And Jarrett's 80s music takes are bad. But you found another level. I believe so far in the last segment you have been banned from travel to Ecuador.
Banned from Ecuador.
You've been banned from Ecuador.
Mm-hmm.
Probably other countries that enjoy ceviche and plantains are joining Ecuador in this travel ban.
They can have mine.
No, you're not coming in. They're not allowing you to come in. Like, you don't get in.
I will. Fine. losing my travel dollars.
Have been rejected.
Losing my travel dollars then.
So if Ecuador's banning you, where are you going to take your travel dollars to eat their food?
Well, can I eat Ecuadorian food in another country?
No, you're banned. Yeah, they've completely and utterly banned you from eating Ecuadorian food.
Okay, so then I won't eat Ecuadorian food. I will find other countries where I can eat things that are not ceviche or plantains
or spicy.
And I'm saving ceviche and plantains for everybody else by not having mine.
So I'm going to assume. Have mine. And I'm going out on a limb here.
Yeah.
The spicy thing. You don't like Asian food, do you?
Well, I mean, what are we talking about here?
Okay, what Asian food do you like?
Well, I mean, I like Chinese food.
What Chinese food do you like?
Usually for me, it's the fried rices and things like that.
Okay, that's what I thought. Thai? You like Thai? Have you had Thai? I think that travel ban might have hit John's phone line. It's one of those days, folks. It's been a fun, silly one. We will work on this with John, I promise. We will try to get the travel bans rescinded. I'll try to find some plantains that he likes. Oh, he's back. Okay, I thought the travel ban had got you.
No, I have folks trying to call me at the same time, and since I'm on the same phone that uses Skype and phone, it's stuff that bumps me off. No, I mean, one time I had East Indian food. I had beef madras, and it took the enjoyment out of it because it was so spicy.
I don't love spicy food either. I'm not crazy on the spicy. I can go kind of spicy, but yeah, I'm not looking for the spiciest thing on the menu. I'm definitely not that.
Yeah, I'm just not wired that way. And apparently, according to Nick, Iceland is on line 1 wanting to book me for a visit.
I don't know what.
And Nick, I am part Scandinavian, so.
Well, see, there you go. I don't know what Icelandic cuisine really consists of, so you might be okay.
Yeah.
I'm not sure. I'll have to work on that one. All right. We're going to call it a day. We will dig more into John's
Keep
food
adding
takes
me with your food takes,
another
people,
time.
because we
Keep
got another
adding
show
them.
tomorrow.
If you need to add more countries to the travel ban, go ahead. On this day, couple things. For me, I was excited to see this one because I remember when this came out. REM's What's the Frequency, Kenneth was released as a single on this day in 1994.
What's your
cool.
Benzedrine, Jason?
I don't know. Do you remember why that was, like, What's the Frequency, Kenneth? Do you remember why that actually, like, is a thing that people said?
Yeah, dude was a disturbed gentleman was yelling at Dan Rather, I believe.
I think punching him while he was doing it, too. I think there might have been assault as part of it. But, yes, Dan Rather was being accosted and yelled at with somebody asking him, what's the frequency, Kenneth, which makes no sense.
Yes. Nope.
Also,
Monster was a great album, though.
It was. Also on this day, Freddie Mercury was born. One of the greatest frontmen in rock music history, and I will end, because I think you'll be in a better position to answer this one than you were with Beyonce. Favorite Queen song?
Oh, see, that's like,
There's
a lot.
Only pick one.
Damn. All right, Radio Gaga from Live Aid at Wembley.
Oh, that's a good one. Mine changes because I'll go through different like eras of Queen stuff that I like. I think lately, and I blame it on the in-stadium DJ in Vancouver, Hammer to Fall, which was in the 80s era, which was one I'd actually forgotten about completely. But live, that's a great one.
Love of My Life, Live at Wembley.
Yeah, I mean, there's so many. But that would be my one right
entire
now. If I was
Highlander
going to
soundtrack.
dial up. It's okay. If I was going to dial up a Queen song at this moment, it would be Hammer to Fall. And next week it might be something different. But Freddie Mercury, born on this day in 1946, I believe, if I remember correctly.
Wow.
All right. That wraps up the show on a Thursday Thoughts that covered some soccer, it covered food, it covered music, and covered lots of different things. That's what happens during the international break. We'll see what we can dial up for you tomorrow. We'll talk some U.S.-Mexico. Maybe we'll have some projected lineups and such. And we'll talk about the rest of the matches going on over the weekend in the international realm, as well as some MLS games. So we have fantasy MLS to talk about. We have prize picks to talk about. Lots of stuff on tomorrow's
Juicebox
show.
Purveyors to do both domestic and international.
Yes, the Juicebox Purveyors will be purveyed for tomorrow's show. And we'll be back tomorrow morning, 9 a.m. Thanks, everybody, for contributing this morning. Talk to y'all tomorrow. Mucha plata, y'all.
Mucha plantain, y'all.